electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is time for Pro Football Today, the pregame show with Kasey Hudson, Dave Sharapan, and Tom Vecchio here on SportsGrid TV. And what a Monday to prepare you all for, because we've got, get this, the Harbor Bowl. I will never not be enthusiastic about this. And plus, an AFC showdown all and well at the same time. So much to unpack here. A must-win for the Ravens, but also a proving point for the Chargers. Heading into this matchup, earlier today, I was seeing 2.5 on the spread, 50.5 on the total. Then moments ago, I'm now seeing that spread shifting over to a beautiful little 3. So, of course, we got to get the opinions of the Kings beside me to run you through the pregame party. Always getting started with the opinion of the Sports King down here. You guys know I always like to aim around, and I've got to make sure I get it correct this time. But the most important thing, Dave, how are you? How's it going? How's your Monday? It's a holiday week. It's Thanksgiving week. It's rivalry week in college football, and now we've got a rivalry between two siblings coming off in a whole different form and fashion.
Great to see both of you. Yes, I'm a little disoriented in being in a different box, but it's okay. We're all good. We're all here. I want to credit Tom Vecchio for alerting the world today that the Harbaughs are brothers. They are related. They are playing. So I saw the tweet. If you don't see the tweets, you should follow all of us. Kasey says it every week. It is true. It's very entertaining.
It's important.
This game should be very entertaining, Kasey. We got a total of 51. We got brothers fighting brothers. We got playoff teams in the AFC fighting each other. We got a plethora of props, and somehow Kaufman's not here. So we got a lot of responsibility on our plates right now. It's Thanksgiving week. It's time to eat.
Yeah. Shout out to Kaufman. Shout out to him. He knows that we miss him. He knows that we're always thinking of him also. And we will throw the jokes and the trends and the friends all out there in honor of him in the box that now you are catering to at the moment. But you said it. I mean, look, we've talked about it a couple of times, sibling rivalries. I've told you guys some of the things my own siblings have said to me. I couldn't imagine us going toe-to-toe in an AFC showdown. So, Tom, what are you making of this excitement of Monday Night Football madness?
Yeah, it is the Harbor Bowl, which I am just totally over at this point. This is far more than just two siblings going head-to-head. Like, as you said, this is an AFC matchup, and this is a really, really important game for both teams when it comes to the standings in the wild card. It's Another loss will put the Ravens that much further behind the Steelers. A win I don't think that the Chargers will win their division. I think we'd all agree that the Chiefs would lock that up. But a loss puts the Ravens a step behind. The Dolphins picked up a win yesterday. This is a huge, huge game. So we have a lot to get to. I think we are in for an exciting game. I lean on the under on this game. I think there's just too many things that matter in this game for that many points to be scored. It's not week 3. We shouldn't see these offenses get out and running. Like I said, a playoff type environment is what we should be seeing. I think we're in for maybe 40 to 45 points. Like, we're not in for a snooze fest. And I think we will see a modest amount of scoring. But again, that playoff mentality needs to shine through for these teams because it is so, so important. I also think we may see more of a passing game tonight because both defenses are really, really good at stopping the run. So, passing game to start. A little bit of scoring. I think the Ravens do win and they do cover.
Okay, you teed this up perfectly, Tom, because sometimes I try to wait, and I hesitate a little bit because I'm always kind of off on a different little bit of a mindset as you guys sometimes, but the pass heavy is what I was fully focused on heading into this Monday night matchup. Of course, Dave, the Sports King, I got to throw it back to you because as I mentioned in the intro, there was a bit of an adjustment in this spread. You're seeing 51.5 on the total. I was still seeing 50 on the total. We're expecting a pass heavy potential game, not to mention 2 quarterbacks that have the capability of having 200-plus passing performances. One doesn't have to do that, will probably be forced more into a pass-heavy opportunity tonight. So what do you think with this spread and with this total, and what are we seeing out west? What's trending out west?
So all the 2.5s are gone. It's 3, and now we're starting to see some books go to 3 minus 15 or 3 minus 120, which means that you're on the 3 as the book, and it's too late to get off of the 3. You don't want to leave anyone an opportunity to get a middle and go back to 2.5 because you know they're going to bet you the Ravens. And if you go to 3.5, they're going to take the Chargers. So you sit on 3. You hope the game isn't, 30 to 27. At all costs, as the book, you don't want it to be a field goal game to win by the Ravens. Now, ideally, this one's going to, if we have the scoring that you guys are talking about, and under would probably be the best result for the book. Yeah. A Chargers win and under is definitely the best result for the book case. So if that can happen, whether we get there running or whether we get there passing, I am just waiting for the Vecchio announcement of whose game this is.
Who's
tonight.
The player?
Who's the player, Case? Who is the player? Because Derrick Henry to score a touchdown, when people go to do their taxes after 2025 or 2024, there's a lot of people that are going to have to claim Derrick Henry on the anytime touchdown score. It's only minus 195 tonight. This is a bargain.
Mark him down to be claimed, that's for sure. I love that pitch up, though. When you're thinking of what the script could potentially be for the game tonight, because we love to try to describe the script before Vecchio gives us his player of the night, which is pretty solid on. You're looking at 2 teams that catch this. Wide receivers average 189 receiving yards versus the Ravens defense. Then flip that, and then you've got a wide receiving group that averages 142 receiving yards versus a Chargers defense. That Chargers defensive line and linebacker group, completely bullish. Now, I've got to ask you this, Tom, not because I'm hard set on it or because this was the method to my madness today, but do you feel like there's any similarities between the Bengals team and the Ravens team, especially that close matchup that we saw them just have a few weeks ago? And is there anything that you think that fans can take into this matchup and say, look at what the Chargers just did to the Bengals so well? There's minute differences between the quarterbacks, but outside of that, in terms of slinging the ball, are we seeing some mirroring here?
In terms of the Ravens offense and the Bengals offense, push comes to shove, I would say no, just because we see the Ravens in the top 10 of the league when it comes to run play percentage, and that is not where the Bengals are. We know what the Bengals want to do, and that's get out and pass the ball, and the Ravens want to run the ball. So when it comes to today's game plan, both defenses are in the top 10 in the league for the fewest rushing yards allowed, and specifically difficult for the Chargers. The Ravens are only allowing 77 rushing yards per game. So it is going to be a tough path on the ground for J.K. Dobbins tonight. Of course, the Chargers are still the 10th best team against the run. So Derrick Henry does have a quote-unquote difficult matchup tonight, and he can still get his. But when it comes to comparing offenses, I would not put the Ravens and the Bengals in the same category. I would say there are players like Zay Flowers that could do similar things to what T. Higgins or Jamar Chase did, but overall the offenses aren't the same.
Okay, yeah, no, definitely not the offense being the same. The shootout mentality when the Ravens are forced to pass the ball versus use their run game, and that shootout that we saw between the two. But I would agree. I just know that betting angle-wise, some people were like, well, look what they just did to the Bengals, and look what the Bengals did in terms of catching up with the Ravens in the previous weeks that we have just seen. So, as mentioned, always here on Pro Football Today, the pregame show, we're going to run these position groups head-to-head so that we can get the best odds, lines, angles for these props, because I feel like there's plenty of props to unpack with this matchup. Tom said it. I'm in agreement. So is Dave. We're going to see a lot of potential passing out of both of these teams. But what will be the key players and who will be Tom's player of the night? Maybe you can even give us 2 of the night. I don't know. It's Thanksgiving. Maybe I'm being greedy when I'm supposed to be grateful. But who knows? Make sure you're following SportsGrid over at SportsGrid. Make sure you're following Tom Vecchio as well as Dave Sharapan over on social as well. And make sure you stay tuned with us here on Pro Football Today, the pregame party on SportsGrid, as we run through the Harborough Bowl. Why is that so hard to say? Is it the borrow at the end before the bowl part?
It's kind of like Jaguar.
Oh my gosh. This is what happens when you move up north. You just never live it down. Don't go anywhere. Stick around with us here on SportsGrid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the moment. That's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions once again. His third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Pro Football Today, the pregame show with Kasey Hudson, Tom Vecchio, and Dave Sharapan here on SportsGrid TV, talking about the Harborough Bowl and the AFC showdown that we've got going down for Monday Night Football. Dr. Seuss, hire me. That's what it feels like right now. So we're looking at a 3 spread of 50.5 when it comes to the total, and I'm going to see how many times I can get these two to say Harborough Bowl as fast as they possibly can. But more importantly, as promised, we're going to take these positions head to head. We got to start with this QB room, though, because, wow, we saw some plays out of Herbert, now Herbert and Hubbard. We saw some plays out of Herbert versus the Bengals the other week. A lot of jaw-dropping moments, and no, it's no surprise. I mean, how many times was this guy voted like the top passer in the league heading into every season before injury tends to be a part of the issue here? So I'm excited to see where he comes up in tonight's matchup. His number sitting at 262.5. Then you've got Lamar Jackson sitting at 235.5. We talked about this potentially being a pass-heavy situation. Heavy, my goodness. But more importantly, Lamar Jackson doesn't have to be a pass-heavy quarterback. We've seen the ability to be creative. He can use his legs. He can rely on Henry on the ground. So, Tom, I'm going to kick it to you first on the best lines, odds, props, angles when it comes to taking these two quarterbacks head-to-head.
That would be Justin Herbert, and I think his yards are totally fine. His yards worked into the SGP. We'll get to the SGP segment in a little bit. I think the yards are totally fine. But specifically tonight for Justin Herbert, I like over 21.5 completions. So as I mentioned, the Ravens, they're allowing 77 rushing yards per game. That's the second fewest in the league. This is a very, very difficult matchup for J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And I don't know if Kamani Vidal is active, but I doubt it. Haskins, their other running back. It's a very difficult matchup on the ground. So if we look back to last week, Justin Herbert, last week against the Bengals, that was the first time this season his completion percentage was under 50%. So now we take a step back. This game, as I said, very important when it comes to the AFC wildcard picture. So they can't move the ball on the ground. We also see the Ravens, they are 10th in the league in total blitzes this season. So the game plan that I'm envisioning tonight is the Chargers say, okay, let's reel things in for Herbert because he has been very, very effective this season. Again, last week was the first time his completion percentage was under 50%. What does that mean? Let's move the ball quickly. If the Ravens are going to be bringing the blitz and also the Chargers not able to move the ball on the ground, Herbert gets the ball out quickly. We pick up first downs. We stay out of third and long. We move the ball, and we try and keep up with a high-scoring Ravens offense. And that means Herbert has to be effective tonight. So I think the yards will be there. Like you could take 250+. You could work it into an SGP is where I'm going to get to. But the completions, him being effective tonight, I think is the best spot for the Chargers to be live in this game ultimately.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Plus, just kind of lining things up versus this Ravens defense, you've got quarterbacks averaging 304 passing yards for starters. In 5 games, quarterbacks have hit 300-plus passing yards. Now, some of those quarterbacks to be named: Burrow, Week 5, 392. Mayfield, Week 7, 370. And then Burrow again in Week 10, 428. These two teams just saw each other. We saw Herbert hit well over 270 passing yards versus the Bengals. It is a little bit of a different beast, but still, I like throwing the notes out for comparison. Now, Dave, kind of getting your perspective on this, because we know that Lamar Jackson's this dual threat quarterback. Sometimes they try to reserve his legs a little bit more prevention mostly, but when need be, he can hit 40-plus rushing yards. His mark is sitting at 40 rushing yards. Are the rushing yards somewhere we would lean in tonight's matchup, knowing the restrictions that the Chargers defense can present when it comes to groundwork?
In the true spirit of Adam being here and me being in his box, you take a position and have him do something that it's not designed for that position. So usually a running back to catch passes, yards, receptions, things like that would be right here where Adam would do that. But a quarterback rushing makes perfect sense for the same argument. So yes, I think Lamar has a very good chance of going over that number for that rushing yards. As far as the quarterback room and the quarterback battle, while Tom was talking about completions, I started to look at the attempts because the yardage is interesting on the head-to-head props. Vinny, if you could pull that back up, you see the yardage. It's a big difference between the two for the quarterbacks. Let's do the quarterbacks here. But the attempts for both, right? So 235.5 to 261.5 is 30 yards, basically, okay? Mm-hmm. Their attempts are only 5 apart. The Lamar attempts over is 29.5. The Herbert attempts over is 34.5. If the Ravens have success running the ball, which we'll get to here next, then he's going to go under that number. Mm-hmm. I actually think they're both going to go over. If you guys are talking about this being a passing game, those attempt numbers, both over. And then the longest pass between the two of you, if I tell you that the number is exactly the same, who's going to have the longest pass? And the price is exactly the same. Tom, who would you pick?
It would be Herbert. He has the downfield threats with Quentin Johnston, and even Josh Palmer is a good downfield threat.
It's not even a question. Casey, do you agree?
I agree 100%. Plus, we saw some of that in the previous game, some of those big bomb throws. Right now, too, I feel even if we want to play Adam here a little bit, we don't know whose role is going to be what. Is it going to be an Isaiah Likely night for the Ravens? Is it going to be a Zay Flowers night? Is it going to be a Bateman night? There's still too many options sometimes in terms of who the key player is going to be to help them get down the field, whereas like we kind of saw where that rhythm can come in for the Charger side of things. And kind of adding to where you're coming in, I know some people are like, you said that not much rushing should be able to take place versus the Chargers. Why would you even look at rushing? Well, you've got some quarterbacks where that's their go-to and they can move fast enough if the blitz is coming at them. And you're talking about a Lamar Jackson that picked up 46 rushing yards versus the Steelers, one of the top run-stop defenses out there, but he did have 33 attempts through the air, picking up 207 passing yards. So just a few things for comparison to kind of gander out there. But Tom, what say you when it comes to the potential rushing prop for Lamar Jackson, as we are all leaning heavy when it comes to Herbert for passing?
Right. I always Lamar, the rushing is fine. For me with Lamar rushing, it's either you take the over or you don't play it. Like taking the under is certainly very tough with Lamar, especially in a game where, if the Chargers do get out ahead, we do see a good defensive line, they can bring the pressure, et cetera, et cetera. So I wouldn't take an under on Lamar rushing. It's over or simply stay away.
I could not agree more. Well, all of this and more, and plus we got to talk about this wide receiving group because that's clearly where a lot of us are leaning, but the most fun is coming up here because now Tom and I get to go against one another with some SGP. Yes. And I haven't said it in a while, but I'm really digging my same game parlay for tonight's matchup. Hopefully to their own, the one and only Tom, who always gets picked, always gets some love, so don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Pro Football Today, the pregame party on SportsGrid TV.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all season long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, guys?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take the Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheeks as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Finn. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today. It's the pregame show here on SportsGrid TV, and we're getting to the most exciting part of the pregame show because now it's time for us to get into some same-game parlay. All right, I know it's Monday, and Thursday is your day, but I'm just feeling so good about my SGP that I'm going to let you go first, Tom. So what do you got for us?
I thought you were going to go first because It's not my day, but all right.
Nope. Teed it up perfectly for you.
Yeah, the last few SGPs, missing them by one leg, missing them by a few yards, whatever it might be. So, again, real things in is like the theme of tonight. The Ravens, they've been losing some games. They need to right the ship. I think Herbert needs to be the focal point of the Chargers offense tonight. So you hype things up where I say, it's going to be X players game. And I really don't have that tonight because I actually think this is one of the tougher games we've done. So I'm going with SGP. It's only sitting at plus 255. I think these are fair odds. Let's start off with the Henry touchdown. That's kind of the free square. We're just going to lock it in because we get the odds. I want to get back to the touchdown market after we go through this as a side note to Vinny. But Herbert, 250 plus passing yards. Again, they're not going to be able to move the ball on the ground. We've seen Herbert go over this number in 4 of his last 5. The Ravens are on the second fewest rushing yards per game. Next up, Lamar, 225 plus passing yards. That's sitting at minus 158, so it's a little bit lower than his prop. Again, the Chargers are still top 10 in the league for the fewest rushing yards allowed per game. So Henry can still do his thing. I think there's a chance that he goes, gets a touchdown, but still goes under his prop. So I see this as a passing game. And ultimately, the Ravens want to get out and score, right? The Ravens are coming off of losses, and they still need to show that they are one of the best offenses in the league. So will there be Henry? Will we see Lamar run? Of course, those things will happen. But ultimately, showing that they have the passing game to keep up with teams, keep up with Buffalo, keep up with Kansas City, whatever it might be, that needs to be something that they need to prove to themselves. So Lamar doing passing, we're not asking for massive numbers from either of these players. 250 from Herbert, 225 from Lamar, and then Derrick Henry scoring because, of course, he's going to score.
Ooh, I like it, actually.
Pretty good.
Definitely pretty good. I mean, I think we have some things in common there, but then I guess I'm the extra one today with Adam not being in the mix. So whatever, everybody hold their horses. Let's be grateful. It is that week. Okay, so I do have Herbert, but I altered him up to 275 at plus money of 116. I did this because 297 versus the Bengals for 1 for 2. I already went through the statistics of what passing yards quarterbacks are capable of versus this Ravens defense, 300 plus 5 times this season. And you're talking about one of the best passing quarterbacks out there when healthy and everything is running rhythmically for him. So plus 275 for somebody who's coming off a 297 performance. I liked it. Then there were some questions around Ladd McConkey and his health. He is active for tonight's matchup. Now, while I altered him up to 70 plus at plus money yet again, it's the fact that he was the key contributor versus the Bengals, number 1. Number 2, it doesn't have to be multiple receptions because he was the deep threat connection for Herbert versus the Bengals. So if they're going with the expected, then I think this guy can come in and present the unexpected downfield threat. I like the vibes. Then J.K. Dobbins didn't get as involved versus the Bengals. I know it'll be worse going against this Ravens defense, but getting into the end zone, I didn't hate it. Plus 115, you're talking about a guy that got more involved towards the end of the previous game, so that could be a similar script to where they really got to punch in another touchdown. Why not give it over Dobbins and see what he can do? So that's my same game parlay, all coming in at plus 561. Nate, you got 2 minutes to ponder this.
I know. Well, listen, you put me on the spot when you said, you had pressure and you really loved your play, and Tom always wins, and yours pays great, and it looks awesome. Hurt. Are you sure?
Positive. Go for it. I'm used to it now. I'm a brick
I really like Tom's. I know you are, and listen, that's why I know you can handle it. Yours is good. It's a little too Charger heavy for me. And
you're wearing the gear. Okay, my bad.
Oh, believe me, let's go Chargers. I mean, as a Steeler guy, I want to see the Chargers win, but he's got Henry to score a touchdown on there.
Yeah.
Like, that you found a way to involve the most consistent thing in one of the most inconsistent sports things we can bet on. Case, I love you, but I'm picking Vecchio tonight. I mean, we're doing this show together, on Black Friday. There might be a shopping special, some other thing. Come up with something there. Just use all Mahomes stuff.
Come up with something there. As brilliant as okay, that's fine. We'll see how it all plays out. My feelings are not hurt. Tom can win this one. As I mentioned, that's totally fine. I'm still okay with it. We still have another option of us kind of going against one another. Like it, love it, leave it coming up later here on Pro Football Today. So still more for us to get into, but we got to talk some touchdowns as has now come up in SGP. We got to talk more about these wide receivers and see who's really going to be pulling off the big performance of the night for the Harborough Bowl and the AFC Showdown. Don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Pro Football Today, the pregame show on SportsGrid TV.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, guys?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Pro Football Today, the pregame show with Kasey Hudson, Tom Vecchio, Dave Sharapan here on SportsGrid TV. We just went over some same-game parlays. Tom continues to wear the crown. It's totally fine, but we do need to pivot perfectly from same-game parlay because we mentioned some touchdowns, which means let's figure out who's getting into the end zone tonight with the potential target share that we're going to see, with this potential pass-heavy game we're going to potentially see. There's so much madness on this Monday. So, Tom, what are you looking at when it comes to some stellies tonight in the end zone?
Yeah, the touchdown market overall tonight, I think, is really interesting. And, I was trying to bring up these comparisons of, finding some correlation between the game environment and what we should be seeing. When we look at the touchdown market, Derrick Henry, okay, we all assume, he probably should be scoring. This game totals at 50. Everyone else besides Derrick Henry is sitting at plus money, right? It's not like we're dealing with the Lions where they have three players of Montgomery, Gibbs, and St. Brown. They're also getting minus money. Every player besides Henry is sitting at plus money. So I think there's some really, really interesting spots to attack tonight. You want to go with Zay Flowers just because he has the highest target share on the Ravens. I think that's certainly fine. We have some deep ball options with Quinton Johnston and Ladd McConkey for the Chargers. I think that's fine. I just think that if you are on board with the over tonight, you take a shot on a couple of these players. Like we're gonna be in plus money tonight. That's the point I want to make. So I don't have one or two specific players that I overly love tonight, because we do see these offenses pretty balanced. But outside of Henry, I would say basically Eddie Wood's a good shot tonight.
Ooh, I like that. It's
a 50 over-under. Everyone's at plus money.
No, it's a good point, because then it also brings us perfectly to that little game that we have played, more so Dave, but it's just become so grained in this show, which I love. Give me three guys. We're not going to go with five, but give me three guys that you can see getting into the end zone tonight. Dave, I'm going to put it in your lap.
Well, I'm looking at the pricing, and a game like this would drive me crazy back in the day as we try to decide who should be what price. They're all the same. They're all literally like 10 cents apart, and it's just to not confuse bettors. Like, they might as well all be plus 220. And when you make all the prices plus 180, plus 195, plus 220, plus 260, plus 290, and then plus 310, okay? I don't think anyone – now, if you can find a longer shot than that on the board, like, okay.
I know how.
Oh, that sounds like a tight end conversation. Is that what that was? Case, was that? What are you smiling for? Mom, did Mom just text you? Or did we bring up, we
Mom
led ourselves
says she
right
loves
to the
you guys.
tight end.
Tight end would be Will Dissly for me, but you guys hate when I say this. It's picking a quarter or going with a half, because then the number will go up if you're so sure about, or if you feel more confident about a particular guy getting in the end zone. That first quarter and that first half bet comes in at like plus 4, 5, 6, 7, 800. So
Ooh.
maybe this is a game where you get a little
it's
confident.
Derrick Henry. You want us to pick 3. It's Derrick Henry and who else? Like,
right.
You pick one wide receiver, I think, for each team. So for me, I think maybe I'd go Mark Andrews instead of Zay Flowers. And I have no idea who to pick on the Chargers. I don't.
I just think it's interesting. Like I said, this game should have a modest amount of scoring. If this game ended, let's say, 24-20 or 27-20, we still hit the under, which is where I lean. I lean under 50 or 51.5. 27-20, the Ravens win and cover, like I said, but we get some touchdowns in there, right? And I think that is important to note. So you can take a shot on a few of these players. Personally, I would say Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey, just because I just don't think it's going to happen on the ground for the Chargers. And then outside of Derrick Henry, I think Flowers is a great option if you want to take a little bit of a longer shot and go to Rashad Bateman. I think both of those are perfectly fine tonight.
All right, so just throwing this out there for an anytime first half touchdown. I know you hate when I say anytime, Tom, but I'm reading it verbatim here. If you were to take Quentin Johnston plus 410 for a first half tutty.
Whoa.
Ladd McConkey plus 320 for a first half touchdown. Derrick Henry plus 120. Zay Flowers plus 380. Mark Andrews plus 500. And then Will Dissly plus 550.
Here's the thing I would say. Let's say I'm super confident about a player getting to the end zone like I was about DeAndre Hopkins or whoever it might be. If I'm confident that he's going to get in the end zone, I want to be right. And that means I just want to bet him on to have a touchdown. So if I were to be betting on a first half touchdown, I would also be betting them to score overall. And I would make the math work that I can still come out net positive. Because if I bet on them to have a first half touchdown and then he scores in the second half, I was right that he scored a touchdown, but then I would lose the bet. So if I do things like this, it's like, go ahead, Dave.
It
has to be done a certain way. Right.
Case.
It has to be done a very specific way. Like you have to get there and grind the math so you know that you're coming out net positive.
This is not my train today. This is not my train. We were talking about the numbers for touchdowns. I was just saying where they go. If anybody feels confidently about something shaking out, and we're talking about this score being potentially what it is and seeing a couple of touchdowns in the first half, it's hard to narrow it down, but this is the values that lie out with that. It's not my train. I'm not on it. You guys don't have to run that by me again.
Fine.
I get it.
I know.
I get it.
But it's for the math guys and just for someone who likes to be right. Being right and not getting to the window because you picked a half is not worth an extra plus $2 or whatever difference the price is in any time touchdown.
I wouldn't sleep.
First half touchdown case.
That happened. I wouldn't sleep.
See?
All right.
And we need Vecchio to sleep.
We don't want to affect Tom's sleep. I get that.
Exactly.
I totally do. Okay. I had to come off caffeine, all the things, and the most important thing is the sleep, Tom. So I'm not here to disturb the peace, I promise. Let's take it to this wide receiving group now that we have broken down the touchdown conversation and tried to sort who might be getting into the end zone. Unless, Tom, you wanted to throw your three. Oh, you did throw your three guys into the mix. Yeah. So when it comes to the receiving side of things, let's start with the Ravens because this one could be a little bit more complex. Who are you leaning towards in terms of this wide receiving matchup?
For the Ravens specifically, actually, it's their second receiver, Rashad Bateman, if we have the graphic for that. I have him over 37.5. This line has moved up a little bit to 39. The number I do have, Matt, is at minus 135 for over 37.5, so I'm willing to play that. He's been over this mark in 7 out of the 11 games. He comes in with a 17% target share, which is second highest on the team. Some people are going to maybe call me out on this. It's actually 15% if you account for Deontay Johnson being in there in the sample size. I don't care about that. It's 17%. He's the number 2 option on this team. But it gets a little bit jumbled after that, right? We're reducing him times fall below that number because, it's Mark Andrews being involved. We're going to see Isaiah Likely involved, et cetera, et cetera. But Bateman is the actual number 2 receiver, and we do see some good downfield targets from him. So he can get over this number in legitimately 2 catches.
All right. Dave, any thoughts on the wide receivers? Anyone that stands out to you or how to place this one when it comes to the Ravens?
I wanted to leave you time to make a case for the tight ends before we get to like it, love it, or leave it. Is there anything in the tight ends market that you want to give to the people? Not
Will
the
Dissly
receivers?
tonight. Will Dissly.
It's Dissly for me. I mean, I loved his performance the previous week, but more importantly, I think that he established some trust in not just being a hand-of-the-dirt tight end, and I love those storylines. Get the guy's hand out of the dirt, get him involved in some routes, and let him help you out. And his number sitting at 40.5 when it comes to receiving could be something in those chunk plays, but in the end zone is probably where I'm going for one of my best bets of the night. So I already mentioned it
over
earlier.
39.5. Just want to put this out there. Ravens, they've allowed 736 receiving yards to opposing tight ends. That's the third most in the league. Dissly, he has a 17.3% target share. That's third on the team. McConaughey is number one. He is officially active. We've seen Dissly with 40-plus in three of his last 5 games. He's been over 80 twice in 2 of those games. So it is a good spot for Will Dissly.
The receptions, Tom?
It's potentially that he goes under receptions.
Minus 164?
I wouldn't play that, but I think it is the right bet. Under on receptions, over on yards.
Yeah, that's one of those things. I won't touch the receptions
then for him. Maybe a longest reception.
It might be like this plays into my whole thing where Herbert has the ball said the because are still top 10 in terms of blitz. So that low average depth of target for Will Dissly, get the ball out quickly for Herbert, move the chains. This plays into what I'm expecting tonight.
All right, we'll see what goes down. A few more things to unpack before we get into the Monday Night Madness. Don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid TV.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the pregame show with Kasey Hudson, Tom Vecchio, Dave Sharapan here on SportsGrid TV. I promised more fun on this Monday, this holiday week, so now it's time for us to get into some Like It, Love It, or Leave It. All right. I will go ahead and get this out of the way. The 2 times. That means it's 2 times the luck, 2 times the charm, and 2 times
You
the.
have to go
I might
first.
want to
I went first on SGP. You got to go first now.
You're first, Case. You're
Maybe
first.
I was doing a distracted talk there. Fine. I will go first. This is totally fine. All right. Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson to each record 5+ rushing yards in each quarter at plus 700. Why this? Because while the rush game might be a little, I don't know, have some resistance against this Chargers team, you have to go against the fact that, or you have to go along the lines of the fact that Henry's one of those top running backs in the league for a reason. I think that he'll be able to kind of bulldoze his way through a couple of broken tackles and get some good gain there. And then it comes down to Lamar Jackson. I mean, if I think he's going to get 40+ rushing yards on the night, I think that can kind of happen throughout each quarter. So do I absolutely think that this is going to be key? Maybe not, but for the most part, this feels very doable in terms of like what the Ravens have to produce and the pressure on their shoulders tonight and their key players showing up in one aspect or another. That's my pitch.
Okay.
Tom.
Mine for LLL would be Justin Herbert to record 50+ passing yards in each quarter, sitting up at plus 490. And again, I guess this may be the Justin Herbert game for me, where I didn't like specifically name a player, but I think he has to be the focal point of the offense tonight, regardless of who the ball is going to. 50+ passing yards in each quarter at plus 490. He's going to have to move the ball. I do not expect them to move the ball on the ground. And, Herbert's prop is sitting at 263 or so. Like, this is what we should be expecting. Like, this is already kind of baked into what is expected from him tonight, pushing close to 300-ish yards if he were to hit the over. Now, obviously, there are circumstances where he passes for a ton of yards in one quarter and then, less yards in the third quarter and then a ton of yards in the fourth, and he hits the over in his passing total for the game, but doesn't hit this prop. So I like it. I think it buys into the game script that I'm going for, and plus 490 I think is a fair price.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
All right, Dave, putting you in the martini shaker, shaking you up.
All right, let's.
I already know what Dave's going to say about Casey's, but I'll let him answer first. Well, I'm going to say Dave's going to say that the only issue would be Lamar not rushing in the fourth quarter if the Ravens are ahead because he doesn't have to run, and they're just simply handing the ball off, controlling the clock.
Wow,
Can you
Nostradamus.
see into my head? Like, that is crazy.
Nostradamus.
All right,
I think the game's going to be much closer than that, for one. For two, I was looking at some similarities in terms of how this team is going to be able to try to run the ball versus the Chargers in comparison to what they did and what they were still able to accumulate versus the Steelers team that I think is stronger in that sense, but that's fine. Dave,
so you want the game to lose for this prop, essentially?
I want a close game for this one, yeah. I think that in terms of what the Chargers need to prove coming off of that previous performance and then what the Ravens bounce back needs to be after losing to the Steelers, I mean, their offense wasn't particularly well-oiled machine, so just seeing the way the Chargers team could potentially best them, I think it's going to be much closer. I mean, I'm hoping, to say the least. Dave, what do you got?
The problem? All right, Case, let's break down yours because we're on it right now. The number of attempts for Lamar Jackson is 7.5. We need him to get 1 or 2 each quarter. There's going to be a quarter where he's probably not going to rush attempt the ball. That's why I like yours. I do. I don't love it, and I'm definitely not leaving it because I think Derrick Henry gets that. I think you'll have halfway home, and we might need like Lamar to just get a 5-yard rush or something like in the third quarter. Like we'll know if we can get through the first quarter with this one, Case, we're off and running. Okay. So I like yours. Tom, I don't want to leave yours, but I don't love yours either. I'm worried about him having one of those. What if the Ravens sustain a drive for like 6 minutes in a quarter and he only gets 1 3-and-out and 1 decent drive? That's that in the book, you're always worried about not what you see, it's what you can't see. So those are the 2 things that I thought about. So I like yours, Tom. I like yours, Case. Now I'm going to flip the script on you 2 right now. I have a like it, love it, or leave it. We don't have a graphic yet. The boys are working on it. Couldn't get it together because it just came to me in the first segment. You guys like scoring. You like a close game. The last time the Ravens played, the Steelers kicked 6 field goals and won the game. And apparently Tucker forgot how to kick. His prop tonight is 7.5 points. Kicker props. The first time. Do you like it over?
Oh.
No. Because if there's a chance that the Ravens actually get things going on offense and they simply score, let's say, 4 touchdowns, and he hits all the extra points. He hits the under. They still win the game. They win the game 28-20. They cover. They win, but he hits the under on his prop.
Yeah, I don't think I can
2 field goals, 2 extra points. That's 8. I love it over, but that's mine. I can love my own prop. Can I not?
I think it's fair for us to love our own props. That's for sure. Just considering the performance that I think the Ravens need to be able to pull off tonight, I would hate to see them really come down to too many field goals. And then what Tom said perfectly is where my head's at with it on top of that. So I don't know. I might have to leave it, Dave, and I never get a chance to do that. But maybe that's a little bit of payback.
Personal. That's fine. Okay. No. That's fine. I'll see you on Friday. I'm coming with all kinds of stuff on Friday now.
Now I get a chance to leave it on the table. We got a full table. We got more information. We got more best bets to get to on the other side coming up here as we're coming up against some breaks. So make sure you're following SportsGrid over at SportsGrid. I remind you yet again, follow these two handsome faces on SportsGrid or over on X as well. We will be chatting during the game. We will be seeing how our plays are playing out. And now I have to monitor quarter by quarter to see if this is going to shake out properly so I can shake something in their face. But it's fine. We're all teammates here. Stick with us here on Pro Football Today. It's the pregame show on SportsGrid TV.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the pregame show with Kasey, Tom, and Dave. Getting ready to wrap things up before we talk with Donnie Rightside about his angles on the night and best bets and so much more. So, of course, gentlemen, as I get ready to bid you adieu, I do have to always get your final thoughts and see what else you want to throw into the mix or throw onto the table, loaded table on this week. But Tom, I'm going to start with you. Final thoughts, best bets, anything else you want to let viewers know before we start chatting on Twitter?
Yeah, the three that I'm on tonight for my main props would be Herbert over 21.5 completions. Again, kind of the whole game script. I think the passing for the Chargers is going to be the key. Will Dissly, I just expect to play a good role. This is a specifically easy matchup for him. Again, the Ravens have allowed 736 receiving yards, which is the third most in the league to tight ends. And then I expect Rashad Bateman to be involved as that option, and I do like the under tonight. Again, we could see a game end 28-21, somewhere around there. Like, that's going to be an awesome game. We're going to see scoring. We're going to see the teams go back and forth, kind of like maybe some key defensive stops here or there, bro. Like, we're in for a good game tonight. I don't expect this game to have 60 points. I would say under. Ravens win, and they do end up covering. That's my overall takeaway for tonight.
All right, Dave, what's your overall takeaway to add to the table? What do you think? What do you like about the total? What you don't like? What do you think the scoring sitch is going to be? And then remind us again about that beautiful kicker prop, because the one time we disrespected you with kicker props, it did go a little wild, but I still just kind of have to lean under on this one.
I'm just saying, I know. That's fine. That's fine. Look at the kicker props. Look at the prices. The Chargers kicker, Dicker. And I just needed to use an excuse to say the Chargers kicker, Dicker. And I'll say it again because it's so fun. You got to say it twice. 7.5, minus 114 to the over and to the under. The juice should be minus 110. That's a whole nother story and a whole nother show for a whole nother time. And then look at the price for Tucker. It's the same number, 7.5, but over minus 128. Obviously, somebody agrees with me, whether it's in the book or some bad guy somewhere bet it over, because the juice is to the over. 2 field goals, 2 touchdowns is 8. 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1 is 8. That's a Penn State education, right? Used to its fullest. All right? We got a lot to talk about this game. I think Tom mentioned an under. He mentioned the score, 28-21. That is just kicker hate. That's all extra points and no field goals. Unbelievable. The number of field goals in this game is going over, Case. All right? So we'll reconvene on Friday when we do the show post-Thanksgiving. I want to take a minute and wish everyone watching the show, follows us, all that stuff, a happy Thanksgiving. There's a lot of things on the table. You know, take the time to say hello and, you know, share time with family. I love this holiday. What I don't love tonight is that the Chargers aren't wearing the throwbacks, like this color stuff. So I said, you know what? I was prepared for this. I have the actual other Charger jersey on, and I'm ready to go. The Chargers are winning this game, Case. They have to win. They have to win for the books, for the Steelers, for everybody. Let's go Chargers. And let's go.
I didn't think about the Steelers angle. Look, I was just a big fan of what I saw the other week, and who doesn't love a little underdog story sometimes? So I'm on board. I'm here for the Chargers to pull off a big one tonight. But more importantly, do we be nerds? Do we do the whole, like, what's your favorite dish thing before I let you guys go? Because we put out best bets, we put out all the other goodies, and some households like mine, we do a partial American Thanksgiving. I won't be with my family this year. I'll be doing the Friendsgiving thing, but pick a side that you couldn't live without really fast.
Me?
Yeah.
Stuffing.
Stuffing? Oh, that was quick.
Stuffing and mac and cheese.
Stuffing is a huge favorite. A nice plus money one is sweet potato anything. Give me sweet potato pie. Give me sweet potato casserole. Sweet potato anything, Case. What about you?
Just lasagna. I'm new to the stuffing situation, and I actually really do love it. But I have to go with mac and cheese. But we do something called macaroni pie. So we do macaroni pie in my family. That's my can't live without. Yeah. Yep, look it up. It's the best thing that'll ever grace your life, besides me, of course, and SportsGrid and our odds, our lines, our numbers, our breakdowns on Mondays and Thursdays, and this pregame show, more importantly. So, as I always remind you guys, follow these two. We'll be chatting over on Twitter throughout the entire game, because I think we're all on the same page where we say this is going to be an exciting one, and I'm not jinxing it this time. This is going to be an exciting one. It means a lot. Regular season is gaining to a close before we start talking postseason, and we got to see where the futures start to shift around. So hopefully that's something we'll get into on Friday. But as promised, on the other side, we'll get into some more best bets with Donnie Right Side. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on SportsGrid.
Good.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? Because I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today, the pregame show with Kasey Hudson. And as promised, Donnie right side here on Monday night, getting you guys ready for all the goodies outside of Thursday because we've got a big matchup. It's the Harborough Bowl. It's an AFC showdown. It's so many good things. Two teams with an impactful, more meaningful performance needed to come in hot for them tonight. Spread bounced up to a 3, total sitting at a 50.5. And as always, I got to ask your initial thoughts on this matchup.
Agree on that. I do think the better football team overall, if we're looking on paper, is the Baltimore Ravens. And also expectations coming into the season, Kasey. Baltimore Ravens, Super Bowl challengers. Maybe Lamar Jackson gets his third MVP trophy. Expectations for the Chargers. Let's just build the foundation and see what we get. A lot of new faces out there, and they've been really good this season. So now as you look at this game, it is going to be competitive based on the line itself. But for me, it's still a Ravens game. It really is.
Ooh, okay. Well, then that brings me to one of the larger conversations we had previously with Tom Vecchio and Dave Sharapan. For starters, what do we make of this total? Because Tom is pretty sold on the under here, but you've got two defenses that let up a number of yardage throughout the air. So if we're looking at shootouts, if we're looking at big yards, we sometimes lean towards an over. But this total being at 50.5 can be a little bit of a stretch. What do you make of it?
It is tough because it is a primetime game. Now, it's late November. What do we usually worry about? Weather conditions. No weather conditions in the Dome. It should be perfect, fast track. Lamar Jackson, the fastest quarterback on a fast track. That could be problematic. But also, Pro Football Focus, two teams that are playing tonight in the top 10 total defense. That should be something to watch out for. But you're right about it. The ways to attack both of these defenses typically is through the air, not on the ground, which what happens in the air? Deep passes, penalties, incompletions, turnovers, and the clock stopping, so you might get some extra plays. But I'm with Tom. This morning when we talked to him on the early line, I'm also leaning towards an under in this game. 15.5 is a lot of points. Two good football teams.
Okay, I like it. So then, of course, that perfectly pivots us to the quarterback conversation because I'm feeling strongly about alting Herbert up to 275 yards, and that's sitting at plus money. Now, you've got a number of quarterbacks that have had 300-plus passing yards on this Ravens defense, and more importantly, you've got Herbert coming off of a 297 passing performance. So what do we make of the quarterbacks and what they'll perform, what their performance level will be tonight?
Sometimes when you look at, you just want to keep betting simple. And I say to myself, and it's good that you're looking to alt Herbert up because I answered this question this morning. Let's just say it's 250 yards was his passing number, which I think it's in the 260s. If he doesn't throw for 250 plus, Kasey, they're not winning the football game. So if you think the Chargers have a chance in this game, it's got to be on Justin Herbert's arm. Love J.K. Dobbins. Going to have a revenge game. Hey, look, we're going up against the Baltimore Ravens. That's not the way you beat the Ravens. It's through the air, and he's one of the best passing quarterbacks in the NFL. So I agree with you there. You tell me before this game starts, Herbert's at 210. They don't win this football game. No way. You tell me that he's at 275. They might win the football game. There's no guarantee, but you know they'll be in the game. So I agree. If you're looking to bet Herbert and you think the Chargers will be in the game, it's got to be to the over with them.
1,000%. You mentioned Dobbins, and I love the fact that you mentioned the potential revenge factor. No, it might not come on the ground because going against this defense isn't going to be very easy, but I like the idea of him getting in the end zone. And what better revenge than a little celebration moment? We saw him get a little bit more activated late in the game versus the Bengals. Yes, Bengals, Ravens, not the same team, but could you see, or who are your favorite guys to kind of get into the end zone tonight?
Yeah, there's a lot. I love the pricing, too, because Dobbins right around that plus 100 number. Obviously, you take a look at Derrick Henry. He's way above that number in that minus 200 range. But for me, I'm not fading running backs, if that sounds fair.
Right.
But the wide receivers and tight ends have fantastic prices across the board. And if my attack point tonight is Herbert has a good night and Lamar Jackson has a good night, let's just say they combine for 4 touchdown passes tonight. That's not crazy. So me attacking Ladd McConkey makes some sense, but more looking overall, Mark Andrews at a touchdown price, maybe Will Dissly, the tight end market, I do think it'd be hot tonight. And also, Rashad Bateman starting to come on a little bit more. I like the pass catchers here, but if you said, Donnie, give me 2 touchdown guys, I'd probably go tight ends on both sides here, getting good prices on those.
You know, I'll never argue against the tight end, but more importantly, talking about that market for a second, because if you look at the numbers, if you look at the touchdown numbers, they almost want you to believe that a running back's going to get into the mix. But I think all of us are on the same page about how the difficulty is going to be there for a running back to get in. So talk to me about some of your best bets on the night, building off of the touchdown.
Yeah, we just had the graphic up there on the parlay tonight. I'm with you. Like, I'm buying a little bit lower on Justin Herbert. 225, I think, is a perfect number for him. Even though I do think he gets over 250, I'm going to play it a little bit later. Ladd McConkey, we had Dr. David Chow on this morning. I asked him specifically my very first question. What's Ladd going to do tonight? He said, shouldn't have very many worries. He's going to play tonight. So I altered him lower to 40 yards. And Rashad Bateman, 25-plus yards receiving on a game where I think Lamar Jackson has success. It's an easy, accessible plus money bet for me. We're not overextending myself. I'll be in it the entire way. But again, getting back to the passers, I think Herbert has to be the guy. Look, I think Lamar's having a good night tonight.
Right.
I definitely need the other side for Herbert to have a good night. Otherwise, we might even be competitive.
Yeah, it's true. So let's build off of the Lamar conversation a little bit more here, because coming off of the loss to the Steelers, 207 in the air, 46 on the ground. He's not the guy that has to rely on passing, but going against this defense, I think, has to be the case. We saw a number of sacks coming hot versus Burrow the previous week. We think they're going to carry, them being the Chargers, that momentum into this matchup. So what is Lamar's role going to be tonight? How is he efficiently going to get through this Chargers defense?
Well, I mean, look, he's looking to be a third-time regular season MVP tonight. And as we brought up the show, there's one thing about playing outdoor. He's always the fastest man in the game. But now when you know you're putting him on turf, I don't know how you sack him. You got him dead to rights, boom, he's like a ping pong ball back there going downfield. So I expect a big night on the ground for him. But again, I'm not saying 70, 80, 90 yards, 50-plus receiving yards tonight, but no surprises for me. A minimum for Lamar. I love him over 1.5 touchdown passes. Derrick Henry's going to get his, we know that. But he's a great passer in a game where you're putting the total. Now, I do think it's going to go under, but if it goes under 47 points, 6-7 touchdowns possible in this game, he's going to throw 2 of them there for me, Kasey.
I actually do really like that one, because I didn't jump. Look, Henry is a lock, but I didn't jump on that one for a number of reasons outside of it. So then you mentioned McConkey, and I was really impressed with him the previous week. You had a conversation with the doc. You altered it to 40.
Yes.
What do you think his potential is tonight? Because I altered him up to 70, seeing as how he can go in for that deep threat opportunity if your tight end gets, out of the mix a little bit, or there was a great equal distribution between Dissly and McConkey versus the Bengals the other week.
The only reason really I picked him and altered him down as opposed to going higher, because I still get nervous. There's points to me that say, Kasey, his first half could be 4 catches, 51 yards. He takes a hit on that shoulder, and then it's a little bit iffy at that point.
Right.
But if you're being honest and you think this is a passing game and the way to attack the Ravens is, why aren't we getting 75 and a touchdown to McConkey? He is a go-to wide receiver with elite skills that can go over the middle. The injuries do concern me, but that's why I'm saying, you know what, Doc? He's going to play and start the game. I'll live with that. But I would not be surprised. 5 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown for Ladd. That should be in the game plan.
Yeah, and it's just those big deep threat balls that can come in really quick and easy sometimes. Now, a lot of people are kind of on Mark Andrews to either find the end zone or have a heavy roll into tonight. But we saw Isaiah Likely be the bigger guy in the previous matchup. What do you make of the tight ends on the Ravens roster?
Love it. Love both of the tight ends. But again, I'm always going to be partial to Mark Andrews. I mean, that's Lamar Jackson's guy. And also his numbers are cheap. cheap tonight. And then you look at a touchdown prop where we say Derrick Henry's minus 200. You're getting him around that 200 plus 250 range, depending on where you're shopping at. Why not? Anytime you're in the red zone, he's an ultimate threat, and so is Likely. One of those two guys should catch a touchdown pass tonight, and they're both plus money. That's in your pocket.
Jump at that. Now, final thoughts are going to start rounding out here.
Yeah.
What does this win mean to the Ravens, and what would this win mean to the Chargers?
Let's start with the Ravens here. They got a early Christmas present on that Thursday night game where I thought, the Steelers would go in and beat the Cleveland Browns. They didn't. So the Ravens are watching. We can kick that door open now in the AFC North, but also from a Chargers line here. You're still trying to chase down, taking a look at the Kansas City Chiefs, who do have tough games to end. You see how close they're playing some of the games. Finally lost to Buffalo. Could have also lost to a bad Carolina Panthers team. For me, this game actually means more for the Ravens just because the expectations are high. 7-5 Ravens after 12 games, we wouldn't have saw that coming. I expect them to come out with fury tonight. And I'm not saying it's house money for the Chargers, right? They'll perform tonight, but the game means more to me for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that shaky start in the beginning of the season just added the pressure and made it that much more impactful. Which sibling does this win mean more to?
I'll tell you, it's crazy. Like Jim and John Harbaugh, it probably took me 3 years to finally get their names correct.
Oh, my gosh.
Even though you know exactly who they are, every time it comes up, you have a brain cramp. Like, am I saying the right guy here?
Yep.
I don't know who it means. It has to mean more to John for Baltimore because I think they need the game more. But it's one of those where win or lose, they'll meet up for Thanksgiving and be happy about it. But I do think the pressure is much more under John and Baltimore tonight.
They're much more civil than me and my siblings. Everything is a competition. And we played different sports. So we challenged each other at each other's sport. I only lost when it came to the tall people sports because my middle sister's 5'10", and I wasn't playing basketball. I couldn't do any of that. But I could hit it out the park, and I could kick a soccer ball. Donnie, always appreciate the insight.
Absolutely.
As you guys know, we can continue to break things down here on SportsGrid TV because Donnie's going to join the crew for In-Game Live. So you get Donnie, you get Kevin, you get Joe, and you get so much more betting, alliance, action, all of the excitement here on SportsGrid TV. Stay tuned with us here for In-Game Live coming up next.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today.
You say this is a smash. I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. They've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ravens starting their season 0-2, and I mean the numbers and what the market had eyeing this team heading into this season is probably almost up in flames at this point.
Their last however many games being down 10 plus points in the fourth quarter, inability to close out, getting picked apart by what is largely considered a below average quarterback with a below average receiving core.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Bears are going to the Super Bowl, Eberflus Coach of the Year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off the platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.